So there was no ifs, ands, or buts if Ains and his group of very powerful warriors was going to crush the kingdom or not. Like, we knew it was going to happen, whether they put up a fight with an army of 100,000 or if there was just a few stragglers, a few guards putting up a bit of a fight. So that wasn't the shocking part of this episode. It was most definitely the final showdown with Brain, and just, this is a man who we've seen moments similar to this. Someone going up against, whether it's Ains, whether it's one of his just servants, just the fact of the matter is we know those characters going up against them is going to equal death. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The thing that gets me is this almost warrior's pride, and we've seen select moments throughout the course of the show, whether it's Sebas, whether it's obviously the end of the episode, to numerous other moments where you just felt like there was something where they went against the norm of what they're used to doing, because ultimately there's a pride among warriors. And I mean, you can look at the Lizardman arc for another similar moment, and that was kind of like a breakthrough moment for Ains, because these characters for him were actually starting to think for themselves and determine what they wanted to do. The fact of the matter is, seeing our man, you knew damn well he wasn't going to cut off his arms. Like, that was his plan. If he drinks his 3 potions, buffs himself to the best of his ability, his one shot at survival is to cut his arms before he can swing. You knew that wasn't going to happen, but a part of me was thinking, like, what if he got at the very least the sword, like, just so close to hitting, and then that's what ended up happening? But the fact that he didn't even get that, it was just death and, you know, the preserving of the body. One could hope that means, like, oh, maybe they can revive him, but most likely that's just going to simply be they're going to use him for parts, or potentially he'll get a respectful burial. That's possible as well, but you should always set yourself up for the worst case scenario, because the likelihood of someone who went up against them getting revived, yes, he's preserved, it's just asking to be hurt. So if he comes back, that's awesome. You'll be happy. You'll probably cheer because he's a great character, but you should just kind of like assume like shit's not gonna be working out for this guy, and that's probably about the best he could ask for. The thing that got me with the end was the fact that he went around the buildings. At first I wasn't exactly sure what was happening, because I was like, what the hell, like, are they just searching every nook and cranny of the village there? But no, it's the fact that he didn't disrespect his grand stand there, right? He freezes, he preserves the body so it wouldn't decay and, just obviously just be a mindless soldier that he killed. But then he walks around, looks back with this sign of respect before pushing on. There's something so fearful essentially about like a giant armored bug who can just freeze the gates that would normally push back any normal army, and then it just shatters like an ice cube. And even if they had 100,000 people waiting there, I don't think it would have changed too much when you have like an army of like ice goddesses kind of like circling behind you, as you can just casually pull out a god eater sword and just completely obliterate someone. But I think what I like about the later portions of Overlord is seeing how, these people have changed or evolved or are starting to think a bit more for themselves, sort of a thing, right? You have the whole science of warriors' respect, which has been a key part for Cocytus. That's literally been his thing since the Lizardman arc, in terms of going against what he should do in orders and saying, no, I want to keep certain people around, sort of a thing. But just to see, like, even at the start of the episode with Pandora's actor, you have this kind of, like, very mean glare being thrown down because he's explaining, like, I bowed down, and then he just kind of retreated. And of course, everyone in that room thinking, like, Ains would never bow down. That's actually a disgrace. Like, why would you do it? And Ains praises, saying, like, hey, if that's enough to get the enemy to drop their guard, getting on your knees and bowing down, like, there's literally no harm to that. And then he brings up the fact that he wants to lose one more time because there's something he just doesn't quite get about the barrier. Like, yes, the only person who got through was someone with a world item, but it's like, was that really created by a world item? So the fact that there's this like act of betrayal from their eyes of like, wait a second, you should never want to be defeated. But the fact that he downplays it and basically presents it as a very logical reason. The biggest thing for Ains is he's someone who can revive people, but he's not sure, and he's not going to gamble on the fact that he could be revived himself. And I think that's an important characteristic trait of his, because he doesn't feel careless. There's so many times where, he doesn't understand the political jargon, he doesn't understand political bigwigs and what to really do in those situations, but there's something that he does get and is very intelligent with, and that's battle tactics, that's strategy. And based on the lore and what I've heard about how he was as a player when he actually played this game, the dude could beat people who were technically more powerful than him, but he was able to overcome it simply because he had better tactics. And I think that's what makes moments like these so interesting, is that it's always hilarious to see Ains accidentally fall into success and not know what's going on, or basically get emperors to surrender because it looks way worse than what was actually intended. But when you look at his strategies and the way he goes about things, he is a tactical genius, and I think it's really interesting to see the characters kind of now start to shape themselves into being their own person rather than just that pre-programmed object that they started out as, which is really nice to see. The Tea Party was definitely, I thought, going to be the biggest moment of the episode. I thought we were about to get like a red wedding situation, because you knew something was up when you have like the glare, like drink your tea. I was like, okay, I know the tea tastes like shit, but is it poison for some reason? I was like, why would you do that? Like what's going on? Like, I had no knowledge of what they wanted to do there. And then when you start seeing the stabs, I was like, what the hell? Like, they're not even going for a killing blow, so are they just trying to make it so she suffers the longest death possible? But then to see the brainwashing and how this is the way of getting her out of here, because otherwise there's no way she would have sat by and ran away with her tail between her legs. No, she would have stood and fight and would die for everything, right? So the idea of waiting for the perfect moment where she was essentially stripped down to just garments, there was no magical items, there was no barriers protecting her. It's a pretty crazy way to get your message across, but I guess no harm in it, because it's not like she's dead by it. But at the same time, I imagine when the brainwashing wears off, that is not going to be a pleasant conversation. But I think for an episode that I didn't expect too crazy of things to occur, like, it almost felt like this would be like the calm before the storm, and then next week, which is the final episode of this season, would come in. That's when we'd see some death, that's when we'd see some bloody and bruised faces. And instead, I think they get your expectations with the whole Tea Party thing. I think a lot of people are going to say, holy shit, that caught me by surprise, and rightfully so. It was a really well-directed scene that, I mean, until it was officially revealed, I had no idea what they were building up to. And after that, I was thinking to myself, okay, they're going to end with the cliffhanger, probably someone breaking through the gates, and then maybe the standoff with Brain would, like, start, but then they would cut it just before the episode. And instead, they even top the Tea Party and make me say, damn, Overlord is just not playing around. That's why I love this season so much, among just so many aspects about it. Like, literally everything about this season just is absolutely what I want to see. Not only do I think it has my favorite Overlord opening, I've been humming and hawing if I feel that strongly, but there's just something about this Overlord opening that just hits. It's a bop, it's a banger, but it's about the characters and just where they've gone, because it's so interesting following not great people. We're following evil characters, right? Like, we're not the good guys. We're not these heroes that you're typically used to seeing. And typically in a story like this, someone crashing down the gate, you would have a character like Brain, because we're on the hero side, they would end up victorious, or someone would save them and it would allow them to live another day. But instead, Overlord's a story where you're focusing on the opposite side of the spectrum, where characters conquer the world, and it's not sunshine and rainbows, it's mostly evil shenanigans. And even if some actions seem more noble than others, we're not the good guys. So following just a powerful evil army essentially swoop in and kill so many people, it's a story you don't get to experience often. And I think that's one of the charming and special aspects that Overlord has going for it. The morally conflicting points where characters will feel like they're more than just conquering demon, or, you know, someone trying to conquer the world. That's what's so great about the character moments, and I think the sign of respect with that warrior's death, those are the moments where you know damn well in any other show, the roles would have been reversed and the outcome would have been reversed, but because we're focusing on Ains and his kingdom here, I mean, you get a situation that is just, it's not able to be compared to any other, I find. Unless you're comparing to other Overlord moments, but you see my point. Either way, I leave the second to last episode of this season very, very happy, if not devastated, and I'm excited to see how they're going to wrap up the season next week. But thoughts, feelings, theories, if you got any down below, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.